Hello everyone, and we are going to talk about the projects. So this is the project video about basically what is this project and how do we start it. So we're going to talk about the first two assignments today, the presentation of the idea and the data collected. And basically this is going to be the foundation for the rest of the project. So you are going to first present an idea to me about, can I collect this data? And if I approve that idea, then you finally collect the data. So let's talk about the idea a little bit. So if you go further down in this document, for the statistics project document, the presentation of the idea, it says on a loose leaf sheet of paper, but you guys are just going to type it. And in fact, you're going to just submit it through Canvas online, because this is online. And you're going to collect a data set, and your idea has to be quantitative. So it can't be qualitative. It needs to be a measurable number of some kind of what you want to, or the type of data you want to collect. You need to collect, keep in mind you're going to need to collect at least 30 of a data set. So, but more is always better. A simple random sample or a stratified sample is recommended. So, and the important thing though is you have to be as random as possible. So you can't just, for example, ask the first 30 people you see at the park or something a question. You know, it needs to be representative and random in some way. And then you want to specify your intended population. So, for example, if I just asked 30 random people at the park what they think about the splash pad in Chesterton, well, is my intended population park goers, or is my intended population everybody in Chesterton? Because those are two different things. And if you actually want to know the opinion of everybody in Chesterton, you're not going to probably want to ask everybody at the park. They probably will have a different opinion than everybody else in Chesterton, right? You may want to ask a few people in a variety of locations. So this is something that you should consider. A few examples that I've seen in the past, and there's basically two types of main projects. The first is a survey. So you can ask people a question or ask them to do a task of some kind, like time them on how long it takes them to say the alphabet backwards, time them on how long it takes them to peel an orange. All of these things are very doable, and you can ask people to do it. And you can be pretty random with it. Now, because this course is online, you can still do that, but it will be more difficult for you because you're not going to have access to people, right? So during the school year, people often choose to go out and, like, during the lunch hour or something, and ask people. And there's CHS students there eating lunch, so it's easy, or at least easier. But another option that you have, if you don't want to survey people, is you can collect data from something else and do an observational study of some kind. For example, people like to do stuff that's related to video games sometime. They want to collect like 30 high scores or something that they get from playing a video game a bunch of times. Or I've had someone go out and measure 30 blades of grass in their yard to see how tall their grass is. It's kind of odd, but if that's what you want to do, you can. Finally, the last kind of data that you could collect is data that is related to like data that already exists that's related to sports, usually of some kind. So maybe you're really interested in a sport, let's say tennis, for example, and you want to collect the heights of 30 random professional tennis players, or some statistic related to tennis. I don't know tennis that well, so this is probably a bad example for me to use, but you could select something related to tennis, and that data set already exists. So it's very easy to actually get pretty much a perfect simple random sample, because what you can do is you can just number the tennis players, right? And then you can use random.org or another random generator to generate 30 numbers between 1 and however many tennis players there are, and select those people. So that is maybe what you're more leaning towards. Okay, you just have to get a data set of 30, basically 30 different data points is the minimum. And yeah, the most important thing is, again, it has to be quantitative, so it has to be a measurable number. So for example, you can't get like the eye color of 30 people, right? Because that's not quantitative. It has to be a measurable number like height. Maybe you're doing something with baseball and it's RBIs. Maybe you're doing something with basketball and it's free throw percentage. I don't know. But it has to be 30 and it has to be random. So you can't just take like the top 30. It has to be, you have to pick a population and you have to select 30 random data points from that population. Okay? Once you present your idea to me and I approve it, which is what you submit in Canvas, then you actually collect your data. Okay? To collect the data, what you're going to do is, again, you should be random as possible. And collecting the data, this part is basically divided into three main parts. The first thing you have to do is, after you collect the data, list the data. So you can just type it out as a list. I should see at least 30 numbers. Tell me what the data is and remind me, by the way. So maybe you're collecting data of the heights of 30 random tennis players. I should see 30 different numbers that are listed. Okay. The second thing is you need a paragraph about how you collected the data. And this is one of the most important parts. So I should see a paragraph that explains how you collected the data. The tricky part is I don't want you to use personal pronouns. So if you say something like the data, and I mentioned this down here, the data was collected by randomly assigning numbers to, this avoids using the personal pronoun we or I, such as we collected the data by. So I want you to do it this way right here. Okay, don't use we. Okay, so make sure that you're able to that you rephrase everything by using what we call passive voice. So that's moving the object to the beginning of the sentence typically, which eliminates you using a pronoun as the subject. That's because in professional writing with statistics, we usually try to avoid using personal pronouns if we're the ones that are collecting the data, and if we can't avoid using the personal pronouns. Remember the three steps we talked about. There's numbering the people, there's randomly selecting the people, or randomly generating the numbers, and then selecting those people that correspond to those numbers. Those are the three steps. Okay, so you should have those three steps basically outlined in your data collected paragraph in some way. Finally, you should mention any bias that resulted from you collecting your data. So if you are doing a survey of some kind, you're not going to be perfectly random. It's almost impossible. So why wasn't it perfectly random? That's what you should explain. You're not going to get points docked if you're not perfectly random. Just be honest of, if you had an infinite amount of resources, is there a way that you could make it better, or is there a way that you collected the data that was biased? Because it's important to recognize those things. Okay? So that's basically a summary of these two assignments, and they're due both before the end of the week. And yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to send me an email. Okay? Thanks.